Good morning and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this very brief presentation on, well, as you can see up here, the very basics of Google Docs for Mr. C's Business Lab. All right, so what we're going to do here is we're going to walk through the basics of the expectation Mr. C has for Google Docs. Now, if you've used Google Docs before, great, this should be pretty familiar to you, right? But we need to understand that Mr. C has a couple of expectations when it comes to working on a basic document. And whether that document is a quick paragraph, an essay, a report, so on and so forth. Right? There are things that we need to do and things we need to not do. Additionally, there are some little tools in here that kind of help you out with what's going on. Now, I can't cover everything about Google Docs, but this should help you to get a start, especially with the first few assignments in my class. All right, so the first thing we have here is when you pull up a new Google Docs, right, it's going to be called untitled or unassigned or unnamed or whatever it is, right? So you can change the name of it, okay? So if you haven't created the document for the assignment, okay, so you go to on Google Classroom where you click Add Creates, right? And then you go down to Google Docs. It'll automatically call itself something, right? It'll more than likely be your name plus the name of the assignment. Great, you don't need to change it, okay? Now, if you're working with something, okay, and you want to give it its own custom name or its own custom title, at any point you can just call it, or click up here in this area and go ahead and start typing what you want to call it. In this case, the very basics of Google Docs for Mr. C's Business Lab, all right? Now, if you look here, this area between here and down simulate a digital paper, okay? And what a lot of students, it's really crazy, they get confused because they'll start typing and then they'll get to the end and they don't realize that it's going from to the next page, you know? So it is set up like a traditional paper. Now, there are some things here that we need to know about. This is our workspace, okay? You have some options up here, or the menu options, and then of course you got your task area here, okay? And we're going to focus only on a few different things, okay? First things first. More than likely, when you start working, you're going to see a few different things here. You're going to see a cursor blinking in this area, all right? In fact, when I click that cursor and click that area, one can simply start to type whatever, oopsie, they want here, period. All right, makes sense, right? And we had somebody enter the office, so I apologize for that quick, brief pause. So yeah, this is the basic typing area. Now, what some students do is they want to start typing at the top of this page here. So here's what's going to happen. If I double click in this top area, I get into the header area. And if I see this word header here and options, I don't want to be there because that's going to create the same thing on each page. Now, there'll be a time to use that and a time not to use this. In this class, for most of my assignments in middle school, we're not going to use that, all right? So we're just going to get back into the basic typing area. Now, you'll notice a few things here. My style of font. Notice the style of font here is a business style professional font, okay? And it is of size 12. What does all that mean? Well, it means a couple different things. And if you want to know, just ask Mr. C later on, right? But basically, the font style is the way the text appears, okay? And the font size is how tall or how big that particular font is, okay? For most of Mr. C's documents, the request will be professional style font, 12 points. Not 11.2, not 12.5, okay? 12 points, all right? So here's what I mean by professional. What I've done is I went ahead and selected the text here, right? And right now I am on Arial. Arial is a good professional font for a business document, okay? However, if I were to go to Ultra, okay? Ultra is a good font for a flyer, a pamphlet, a brochure, an advertisement, not for one of Mr. C's business professional documents. Okay, and you can kind of see why there. It's easy to read, but it wouldn't look good and it'd be difficult to read a whole set of text like that. Okay, let's do another one. Ooh, script writing. Oh, that's pretty, right? Well, it's pretty, but unless one can read cursive, okay, it's very difficult to read it. Okay, so we're going to avoid Pinion script. We're going to avoid lobster. Why do they call it lobster? It doesn't have claws. I don't know. Okay, but yeah, all right, we're going to use professional style fonts. So what does that mean? As long as it works professional. Arial. I would take Calibri. Calibri is one of my go-to ones, right? Comforta, not so much. Definitely not Comic Sans, okay, unless we're writing a friendly letter, because it looks like you're reading something from a comic strip, all right? Not going to use Impact, again. Impact is for advertisements and so on and so forth, okay? And then, just use best case scenario. If you have any questions, just ask Mr. C. Tahoma, Times New Roman, Trebuchet, all right? Verdana, those are good go-to fonts. So Arial, all right, is good. Calibri, oops, that's Cambrai. Yeah, I'll take that one too. Cambria, right? Calibri, good one. All righty. Georgia, good. Laura, all right. Meriwether, I'll take it, right? Nanito, yeah, maybe, all right. Roboto tends to be a little bit wide, okay? So maybe not so much. Verdana, Times New Roman, Tahoma, all acceptable, all right? But I'm going to go ahead and go back to Arial just because here, and I'm going to use it for some more examples. So here we go on Arial. All right, next thing, all right, simply type here. Now notice right now, the size of the font is size 12, right? Again, I already talked about that. You can change the size here, but as long as it says 12 here, you're in good shape, okay? Now, if this were the title of something, okay, where would I want my titles to appear in a text, right? Usually in the center. So if I'm going to put the title of something awesome, all right? Now, if this is a title, okay, I want to make sure it's in the center. So this is where I'm going to use my taskbar up here, okay, my toolbars, if you will, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and choose, and notice a couple things here. I got undo, redo, print, okay? We got spell check, which should be done automatically. We're not going to worry about paint. You can zoom in, zoom out as normal, right? We got different files, styles. We can make something bold. We can italicize something. Again, you're not going to turn in document to me with something bold or italicized, okay? You can underline, change the text color. Please, please, please use black. Don't use blue. Don't use half gray. Don't use white, okay? Use black, all right? And definitely don't highlight it, all right? We're not going to create a link or what have you. But you can left align. Now, what does left align mean? Well, exactly what it sounds like. Here, I'm going to press the center line. You can see what happens here. I press the center, and sure enough, this is in the center of a document. However, when things get centered, here's what some students like to do. Space, space, space. It looks kind of the center if I eyeball it. No, that's not what we want to do, all right? We want to use the center tool, all right? That confirms that we are in professional alignment, all right? All right. Then if we're at the end of something and we press enter again, notice we're still in the center. So we want to make sure that we are left aligned. Please don't use the justify, all right, because there's a reason for that, and I'm going to show you here in a few moments. So let's say that we're going to type something, okay? So Mr. Cadle will start to type a longer than normal sentence here simply because he has a point to make, period. All right. Notice what's going on here. First things first. When I came to the end, the words between B or after B has, right? Or because it shouldn't be B, simply because he, sorry about that. There you go. Has to make a point, right? Simply because he has a point to make. Very good. All right. Notice I never pressed the enter key, okay? It simply went down by itself, okay? That is called text wrap or word wrap, okay? So it'll automatically wrap when the current line is full, okay? Now notice here, this is saying, hey, you have a possible misspelling or misgrammar here. If I hover over it, Grammarly says Mr. Cadle will start to type a longer than normal sentence. In this case, it's saying put a in between than and normal. That is not good. You wouldn't say longer than a normal sentence here. No, it's longer than normal, okay? So in this case, Mr. C's grammar is correct, right? It also has a red squiggly under there. The red squiggly in this case, I know that normal is spelled correctly, so we are simply going to ignore this. If there's a way to do it, we're not going to ignore it, so there we go, all right? In this case, it's acceptable, all right? Here, comma, so on and so forth, all right? Now, if I would have taken this sentence and I would have justified it, okay, you're probably like, well, I don't see what it's doing, but notice the spaces here have become just a little bit more gappier, right? And I can even click this here and notice how now there's even more of a gap. That's because I'm in the justified mode, and I don't want to be in justified mode. I want to make sure that I'm always aligning to the left, all right? And then when you start, to type a new sentence, all right, trailing thought. You get the idea. Now, when I want to start a new paragraph, all right, I am going to press the enter, okay? But notice what happens here. I press the enter, I'm only down one line, all right? So I need to press enter again to double space, okay? And the reason I do that is because I want to make sure that there's a clear difference between where one line ends and one line begins, all right? Now, here's a little technical thing that I'm not going to count off for because I know that's what you're taught here in middle school or what have you. A good business professional document should not be indented. And by indented, I mean there is an indentation, okay? Oops, all right? And yeah, that's fine, okay? And that's how you know one sentence ends and one begins, all right? So I'm going to take this off here. Take that away. A little bit laggy today for some reason, but that's part of the gig. Right, now when I press enter again, hey, look, it automatically knew I was wanting to go down there, and I can start a new sentence, right? And that's fine. But sometimes a good professional document won't have the indentation, so you would just simply double space to start a new paragraph of my essay. All right? Pretty simple here. All right? So that should be the basics. All right? Any other questions, just contact Mr. C. Usually there's not many more. The biggest thing that I see students run into is just not properly centering something, not understanding word wrap, or maybe playing with the indentations or playing with the rulers over here. If you're leaving these things alone up here, you're doing a good job. Don't mess with these things because I haven't taught you about that. We're not going to use this in this case. We're not going to be doing bullet points in an essay, that kind of thing, all right? So there you go. Hopefully we have some good information now about the basics of Google Docs. And make sure you check all things that you need. One last thing I do want to tell you about is the word count. Sometimes I have a specific word count. So if I wanted to see how many words I have in a document, I would simply hit Tools and go to word count or Control-Shift-C. And here it tells me, hey, I have one page with 33 words, 170 characters, and characters excluding spaces, 140, right? So you can see how that might increase if I'm requiring, say, 250 words or what have you, depending on the assignment, all right? So there you go. I'll go ahead and wrap up this quick informational session now, and we can go ahead and move forward, and good luck with writing those assignments.